This is Kevin Pruitt with my guest today on Rising Tide Startups. It's Vlad Mkrtumyan. I hope I got that right, Vlad. Tell
Nailed
me.
it.
All right, I'm 2 for 2. So
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about Vlad and little background.
sure. I was born in Armenia, lived 5 years in Russia, which is how with Vlad, that's how I learned Russian. Is what I tell people. I got
There
to
you
know
go.
that language. Then basically, came to America at about the age of 26. Or no, sorry, the age of 6, and
Uh-huh.
then for the last 21 years, I'm 27 today. I basically been raised here, and growing up, I have a little bit of kind of I don't know if it's generic startup story. I guess everybody's a little different, but I used to do my different ventures coming from basically Russia to America. Couldn't speak the language or anything, but I basically had a lot of different experiences, in the community, and learned awesome things, and I just love this country. I guess that's a short intro.
So did you mention in passing that today is your birthday?
Today is not my birthday. No,
Oh, I thought you said
March
that.
6th.
Okay, all right.
No,
I
no, no.
said I thought you
I'm
said days.
27. No,
Okay.
I'm 27 right now, but
All
yeah,
right,
March
you
6th.
said 27 today. I thought, is
Nah,
that
nah.
his birthday?
I
So
wish.
yeah, there you go.
Every day is my birthday.
Every day's your birthday. That's right. In startup world, every day's your birthday. So, one thing I want to touch on before we start with kind of current day, I did a little research on you, and there's a really interesting story about you something to do with a remote controlled car and some
Yeah.
Pokemon cards. Would you like to
Yeah.
expand on it? Maybe confession. So
Yeah, confessions. Fair. You could say, I
say
didn't know
say
it
you're
was
sorry to a few kids here on the
I,
you met on the playground. So go ahead.
3 kids. So basically, we were immigrants, right? We lived in an apartment complex, and in the middle there was like this pool, and so basically, I was maybe about 7 years old at the time, 8 years old. I thought it was a great deal, but basically, Pokemon cards were all the rage, and basically. I couldn't afford any, Later, my parents ended up buying me some Pokemon cards, but before that, I couldn't afford any. So what I did was, I had a remote control car. I was thinking like, how could I get these Pokemon cards, right? So I had a remote control card. And all the kids always wanted to play with it. And I was like, I know, I'll charge a Pokemon card per playing time. And this is, your kids could do this today, right? Like whatever toys the other kids in the neighborhood want to play with, right? Charge them for it. Make them give you a toy for your toys. So that's kind of what I did. And basically, the neighborhood kids, they would give me like, they give me a Pokemon card, and then I let them play. I think I'd give them one circle around the swimming pool or something like that. It was a horrendous deal.
Did
Maybe
it
like
depend on
two
the card?
laps.
I mean, if it was a
Uh,
better card, you got 2 laps or
I
something.
wasn't that I wish I was that savvy,
Oh,
but I told them, I was like, don't give me the bad ones. Yeah, but they would, I would end up getting like folded cards. One card was like ripped in half because like parents would hate me for doing this to their kids. I thought it was a fair deal. It was like you get 15 minutes of time.
there you
And,
go. A fair exchange.
yeah,
It's
I thought, but
capitalism at its finest.
to make it, yes. So one kid did end up like messing up my car because he would like just like go really fast and he left to ram stuff with it. If that makes you kids feel better, I don't think any of them will ever even remember this. But yeah, that's how I got my first like 5 or 6 cards, and then after that, my parents finally got me a deck. They're like, this guy really wants these Pokemon cards.
That's right. If,
Uh,
if he's willing to work for it like this, I mean, if he's willing to come up with the concept of Uber, as a
yeah.
6-year-old, I mean, what a great deal. What a
I don't know if
great.
it was Uber, but yeah, I noticed. Yeah, I think you just notice what the market demands. What they want, so you just serve it to them.
See, you're
So
right. It,
that
it is in your DNA. I mean, this is not a learned behavior. This is inherent in your DNA.
I don't know, man. I don't know if you know of like something called imposter syndrome, but when
Yeah,
I first
absolutely.
started, I still have that today. I still don't consider myself an entrepreneur. We haven't hit 7 figures yet in my company, which my goal was this year, with our run rate and everything.
Yep.
But basically, like I don't know if it's DNA or if it's just putting the work in. To me, it's really like I'm just chasing my dreams, And like my company, like I don't have to be here at this office right now. I could be wherever I want, and this company is just one vehicle to get my
Right.
to get my Pokemon cards.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just new Pokemon cards today. It's a little
exactly,
different pursuit.
exactly.
Well,
So yeah, yeah. I was out speedboating with I'll call him an entrepreneur. He had, like rents out 5 houses. He's a client of mine right now, and basically his wife was saying like, yeah, you're born with it, and I think it's really it's like the way I like to think about it is it's like playing in the NBA, right? Like everybody can play basketball. Some people are a little bit more naturally inclined. Some people are
Yep.
7 foot tall. They don't
Yep.
even have to try, right? Other people, they're like Spud Webb. They're 5'4", but
Yep.
he still made it. So that's kind of how I think about it.
And you can be 7 feet tall and still not be an NBA player. And
Exactly.
there's a lot
There's
of
so much
seven.
wasted potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you're doing today.
Yeah, so just to speed, I guess, through that journey and to get to today. So basically, and the journey will tell you like why I'm doing what I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
today. So my next company after that, we did apps when I was 19. We did garage sales. Me and my cousin, we'd flip things in the garage sales. He created a garage sale, a scanning app where you'd scan a book and then it would tell you if you should sell it or not.
Wow.
Buy it at that garage sale. Yeah, he's really smart. In middle school, he created a middle school's website. Then after that, we did apps on the Android App Store. Bruce Lee quotes got 300,000 downloads in a span of about a year and a half. The way we did that was I saw Bruce Lee quotes in 2008. Bruce Lee quotes weren't on the Android App Store, and I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan.
Uh-huh.
So, or I was at the time, and so we got all his quotes and we put it on an app, got 1,000 downloads in 2 weeks. Then just, he's like, what do we do? I was like, let's just do 30 more of these. That's how we got all those downloads. Made a couple thousand a month, but not enough to live off of it.
Uh-huh.
And, when my cousin was about 17, I was about 18, 19, we were like, maybe we should just own a company together. And that's kind of the dream since then. So then after that, we did a CRM, or customer relationship management system, software for real estate brokerages. Took that to 13 brokerages in 3 states. And that was my first B2B. I was like, B2Cs are hard to monetize because customers will pay you less. Let's do a business to business company. And because I had 300,000 downloads, I thought I was going to make it so easily because downloads are so easy. Everything's so easy in life. And then, I was humbled real quick when I realized I need to monetize these users. So B2B is easier to monetize, for me at least.
Uh-huh.
And then I realized along that journey of getting those people for my CRM company that I need to figure out marketing and sales much better, which is why one of my friends, he had, a marketing problem. And, I convinced him to let me help him. And at first I was like, no, but then I was like, you know what, we have an opportunity here. So that was my first marketing client. And that's why I do what I do today, which is Logic Inbound. We're a search engine optimization company.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we focus on. We build internal software. So, we are, you could say, a startup in terms of, we're going to have a SaaS product in the next couple of years, and either internally through our resellers or, externally like a product like Moz, M-O-Z.
Right.
But basically, that's why I do what I do today, because I know it's how hard it is when you start a startup and sales. There's a Mark Cuban quote, and he says, "Sales cures all." So yeah.
He said everything is sales.
Yeah, sales cures all. Like
Yeah.
if you have any problems and you close a big deal, no more problems.
Yeah, there you go. So let me drill down a little bit on the kind of the SEO
Anything.
idea. Is one thing that from an untrained mind here, one thing that really kind of I guess it just makes SEO seem difficult is it seems like it is a continually moving target.
Definitely
Like
is.
the algorithms change. How in the world do you keep up with, all the different algorithm changes on Facebook and on Google and all the other search,
That's a
options out there?
fantastic question. That's a fantastic question, because I was actually at a marketing conference, and one of the guys raised his hand. He said, how do you guys keep, he was asking all the other marketing managers, and they couldn't really answer this too well. And my answer is not amazing either. If you're spending $1 million a month or whatever, 100,000 or even $1,000 a month on Facebook, and they change their ad algorithm,
Yep.
and now all of a sudden, your ads are displayed differently. How do you keep track of that? So we're just in the community, right? We live and breathe the community. So we're on the different Facebook groups. We read, my people are really passionate about SEO. One of my guys, my SEO managers, one of my clients didn't want to make an improvement on his website. And he was like, Vlad, I'm disgusted with this. Let me write a page. He literally is going to write a full page, like an essay on why the client should make this change. So they're really passionate about search engine optimization, right? And so, yeah, for the user out there, or for the listener, I would say the same thing, right? You should want to actually be engaged in these different communities, because they're always talking about either what's hot right now or like hacks in the industry. So for example, I'm not actually a super technical guy. That's my cousin, but also we hired on another guy right now named Evan Fishkin, who's Moz is like one of the biggest software SEO companies out there, if not the biggest.
Right.
And he's our VP of operations. He lives and breathes it. He loves SEO. He's been doing it since he was like a kid. Our other guy, Clay, he's been in the industry for 10 years. So that's how we stay on top of it, by constantly being in it and trying to innovate the space ourselves.
Now, he actually created Moz, right?
Evan is the brother of the creator.
Okay.
Rand Fishkin.
Oh, that's where I was putting the name together. I thought that name sounds awfully familiar.
Yeah, so, if I could get Rand as a VP of operations, they're like a $40 million company.
Oh, well, I was pretty impressed that you had the brother. So
the brothers, yeah, no, it was huge. Evan is fantastic. He's that one thing I've learned about getting somebody like him on board and other I call them rock stars. Mm-hmm. You know, for me, my old thinking was like, get the cheapest guy possible, you know, and then talk them down from there. But now it's, even if you pay somebody 40% more, right, they'll produce triple the results.
Yeah.
You know, they'll produce 300%.
Yeah.
So anyways.
So you transition into the more that growth mindset, and you know, you've even combated that imposter syndrome. You beat him down.
Yeah, I'm still not an entrepreneur. When we hit 7 figures, I can say I'm an entrepreneur, and I'll be a know-it-all. But hey, I'm a student. You know?
Absolutely, and constantly learning. I mean, I hit 7 figures on my podcast here. It's just the decimal points in a different place, and the numbers are changed around. So
interesting. And that's also very true as well. You know, sometimes people ask me like, how many employees do you have, right? Because we have a team, and I think I have like 7 local guys, right? But I have a team of 25 total, right, with contractors that work for us full time, et cetera. But that doesn't mean anything either, right? Like, you could be making 7 figures, and I could be making $500,000, right? We did a little bit over $500,000 last year, and but the profit margins could be, I could have 70% profit margins, just could be 20%.
Yep.
You know. Anyways, but still, I want to hit 7, then you can call me entrepreneur. So.
There you go. So tell me, once you kind of shifted into kind of the SEO space, what would you say would be like 1 or 2 of your biggest obstacles? They don't have to be related to SEO, but just running a business. What would you say are the 2 biggest pain points that you face on a regular basis, especially as you hit this growth phase? For
sure, 100%, right? So my goal every year is to double, by the way. I think every company's goal should at minimum be to double. Startups, especially if you're in the startup world, startups out there do 10,000% in a year. Mm-hmm. And then they go back to their investors, and their investors say, is that all? You know, so I think a minimum, every business owner out there, a minimum, right? That's why I'm really frustrated with myself this year. Actually, we only did about 30% growth. But anyways, I digress. So basically, my 2 biggest pain points. Number 1 is actually, right, on my journey, like I said, getting those clients to pay, figuring out the sales and marketing pieces, right? Even for a marketing agency, the reason I love running a marketing agency is if you suck as a marketing agency, you're not going to make any money, right? You know, I was talking to a friend a week ago, and I was gritting my teeth for 1 second. I caught myself doing this, you know, from time to time I do. And I was like, he was crushing it. And he was in this game for, you know, this is going to be our 3rd year. He was in this, he's like been in a year and a half, you know, and he's like on track to do $1 million and everything. And then I was like, I deserve this loss because I deserve it, right? Because I need to figure out the sales and the marketing elements in place to get the money in, you know, just like every other business. And once you do, that's like a super high level, right? Yep. And then after you have the money, right? Like my first 2 hires were horrendous hires, right? They weren't horrendous. Don't get me wrong. I love those guys and everything, but they weren't great hires, right? They didn't stick around. But then you can afford to make those mistakes, you know. And then the second biggest mistake I think I made, and I wish I could go back in time to talk to my 20-year-old self. I actually have this kid that I'm mentoring. I call him a kid, but he's 20 years old. He's 7 years younger. But basically is not doing the things you could be doing to get the advantage that you can get, like the knowledge advantage. And Mark Cuban has a great book called How to Win the Sport of Business, right? He talks about how, you know, a lot of people out there, they're not doing everything they know they should be doing. Like if you're in an industry right now, you should be reading you should know the top 10 books in your industry, the top 10 leaders in your industry. Right. You should be doing meetups. You should be, you know, creating content about the industry, right? Talking to other network experts of where is it going, right? These are all things that we should have been doing. I should have been reading at least 2 books a week, because the average, as they say, the average Fortune 500 CEO reads 100 books a year, right? That's 2 books a week.
Right.
We're starting with 1, but I want to get to 2. You know, two books a week, and then the other thing is, getting mentors in the industry, right? Channel partners, all those things are fantastic.
Right.
That are fantastic for our company that we just haven't been doing.
Just figuring out who the thought leaders are in your particular space and
There
making
is
sure that you
literally,
follow those.
I mean, there's so many things that business owners know they should be attempting to do, prioritizing their day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thinking to themselves, what's the one thing I should definitely get done today, right? That I haven't been, that's the second biggest mistake, is not doing the obvious that I know I should be doing.
Yep.
You know.
Well, that kind of relates back to what you just said was, how do you get to the point that that you're doing everything you should be doing? I mean, I like the way you phrase that.
Yeah.
Because it's so often we say, well, I didn't really know to do that. Well, there's a lot of things you know to do that you're not doing.
100%.
So that's a really good point. So what else? What would you say would be like your highest point that you've experienced since you've launched your business, Logic Inbound?
Easy is me walking into the room. Easy. The lowest point was when I was that was not lowest, but it was a big loss. With my last company, it was basically going in, and there was like a $300,000, 20 or 22, but there's a $300,000 a year deal that I completely blew. I blew that deal. Was sweating, stuttering, all the above, right? But then last year or in the last year, I closed a $6-figure deal. And I went in the room. I was the last guy in the room, which that's not the best thing to do. But I came in the room. They were all wearing suits. I was in a hoodie, and I closed that deal. And I was like, let's get this done with my Zuckerberg hoodie on. That was my highlight moment, and it was awesome. Closing that 6-figure deal. And then other than that, really the true highlights is just being able to mentor other people and other people actually, succeeding and helping them succeed. I mean, people, I feel like, I actually started a meetup called Co-Founders Connect to help other co-founders. We have about, we're going to hit 4,000 members in about a month on our meetup.com group. And then we have over 1,000 on Facebook. And it's really helping them and helping the community. But I was talking to this kid. He was like, Vlad, how does it feel to be successful? And I was like, hold on a minute. I'm definitely not successful. But that made me think. I think no one ever is really successful. It's the moment. If I could, I guess my biggest takeaway that I'm gonna in every single podcast, anytime I ever speak, is really telling people look, you can only control one thing, and that's this moment, right? So one of my guys. He was telling me, Vlad, I'm depressed. He was one of my smartest guys and the best. And I was thinking about that because that sucks to hear. And to me, happiness is making the most out of this moment. And that's really all you can control, right? Enjoying the moment, that's happiness, that's productivity, that's everything. So everybody out there, I would just say, just focus on making the most out of this moment. And then it'll, your life will start getting better and better.
Well, that is a great transition into our next phase, where we want to drill down just a little bit deeper and get inside your head here just a bit. So tell me, and this could be a number of people, but if you had to choose one person that is online that inspires you the most, I know you've mentioned Mark Cuban a couple of times, but who would that be and why?
Online, too many to name, of course. I could just go on and on. So Tim Ferriss was great. I read his 4-Hour Workweek book. Gary Vaynerchuk, I would, or in the early days of Gary Vaynerchuk, I would Snapchat back and forth with him. He would actually reply to my tweets before he got so huge now that, he followed me on Twitter. I was like, not that really did too much for me, but it was awesome though. James Altucher, if you guys haven't heard of Altucher, you should definitely check out. He's really smart with the way he positions things. Great serial entrepreneur. Those are all great people everyone should know of, when it comes to at least tech companies online.
Right.
There's a million. Andreessen Horowitz is a fantastic company. And, Horowitz writes some of the best essays. I love his little hip hop intros, and he writes the best startup essays. Elon Musk, I was actually watching a Elon Musk interview today. He's 2-hour interview on the Joe Rogan show. So he's prominently online as well. So
I heard that was an interesting interview.
Yeah. I like it because it's not the typical reporter interview.
Yep.
Yep. So yeah. But yeah, those are a couple figures everyone should, I think, check out. If I had to pick one out of all of those, by the way, I'd pick James Altucher.
You know, you mentioned in another podcast or another, I guess, an interview that you were talking about him, and you were talking about his idea to come up with 10 ideas a day.
That thing made a huge difference for me. And in
Yeah.
fact, that's another thing I know I should do, but I haven't been doing enough, right? So it's really building, like I said, focusing on the moment and like building up those habits. So Altucher, he basically says write down 10 ideas a day on whatever you want to do. Like if you want to be a musician, write think about like 10 ways you can write a better song, 10 ways to make more money or whatever. And you're constantly coming up with ideas, and it's a numbers game. And then when you come up with that right one, then boom, you could change the whole game for you. And that's actually what I did. Was I wrote 10 ideas on how my friend could market his company better, and I pitched it to him. This was actually my first marketing client. I pitched it to this guy, right? He was the one that convinced me to kind of slow down on my other company.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you know what, Vlad, that's interesting. He didn't really say too much. And then like 2 weeks later, like I swear, like he hits me up. He's like, Vlad, I have these great business ideas. And he pitches me all my ideas. I pitched him. And I was like, oh great, what's the deal? And he was like, you know what? He was like, Vlad, I don't know why, but I feel like you might be the right guy to implement these. And I'm like, I like the way you think. So yeah, so that 10 idea thing can change your whole life, and I need to be doing that more. Altucher is just a pure genius. I feel like in terms of his kind of philosophical views on the world. One of his views is if you just focus on getting 1% better, right, over like every single day,
Yeah.
just 1%. Then over the course of a year, it'll be something like it'll compound. It's the compound effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. It'll get like infinitely better. Anyways. Yeah.
And there's a book that talks about that called The Compound Effect, right? Was it Hardy, Darren Hardy that wrote that, or
Interesting.
It is that is exactly that, and it's this small incremental changes, leading to exponential growth over time. So
Fantastic.
it's good that you mentioned that, but. Yeah, we try to do our research on here. I mean, I don't know what you had for
love it.
breakfast, but we do try to make sure that we understand. We know our guests by the time they get here. So.
That's fantastic. I'm very impressed. And yeah, and the book where I got that from is actually called The Snowball Effect with Warren Buffett. It's his biography, which was a great book. But yeah, that's awesome.
So tell me, drilling down a little deeper, is there a life quote that you would say, this is something that's kind of my mantra, kind of just a motto that I try to live by, or?
Definitely. I hate to sound like a broken record because in other interviews I always say the same thing also, but it's excellence is not an act, but a way, but a habit. So basically, by Aristotle,
Mm-hmm.
So I forget the whole. For some reason, I have a brain fart right now in terms of the real quote. But basically, it goes something like, life is not an act, but a series of events. Excellence is therefore, not one event, but a habit. And basically, what it talks about is, how like everything you do is really kind of pre-programmed already. Like you get up every day at the same time, whatever. Like recently, I actually lost about 43 pounds. I'm 7 pounds away from making it 50. And the way I did that was by building up these habits to exercise and these habits to eat. Mm-hmm. And I think really what makes successful people more successful than the average Joe is they just started building those habits earlier. Whether it was natural or whether it was from a mentor or whatever, right? Or from just like giggles, like they just started building up these habits of reading, of talking to other business people and learning how to program or whatever they excel at. Mm-hmm. I think habits are huge. Another great habit I would say that I really, or a quote that I would say that I really like is, if I have give me a rock and a lever long enough, and I shall move the world. And that's by Archimedes. And it basically talks about how, like, if you build enough leverage, it'll make the difference. I mean, there's so many. I would say, I guess if I had to, do one quote, I would say there's no like one secret. Like life is, life's more complicated than like just like one thing, But I love to study these different successful people. And one thing, Steve Jobs likes to say is actually elegance is taking the complex and making it simple. Mm. And I think that's really what I guess your question tries to do. Here's a fantastic quote. Like if basically it's by Gary Keller. He said, And I actually have an alarm set on my phone. So I've never shared this on any other podcast interview, but I have an alarm set on my phone that constantly goes off every day, and it asks this question. And it's from his book, The One Thing. Keller Williams is like a $100 billion company, and he started it. And it's, what's the one thing I can do right now that makes everything else easier or unnecessary? And basically, when that alarm goes off, I always ask myself, like, what's the one thing I can do to make this current moment, like this current challenge, right? Because it says right now, like, easier or unnecessary at all, because I don't even have to do it, and I get to whatever I want.
I mean, all that kind of feeds into the whole idea of this 1% better, this doing small things that lead up to big changes, and
100%.
That's good. I mean, it's interesting to hear, you kind of expand on some different things. I mean, it may sound a little bit like, okay, I picked a piece here, I picked a piece here, I picked a piece here, but it's not random. I mean, everything is kind of aiming in the same direction, and you really have, and I want to applaud you for this. I mean, it seems like you've really kind of worked out some things that really, you kind of have a life strategy that things need to fit within. Here's the boundaries, and if it's got to fit within this, if it doesn't, it just kind of falls by the wayside. Is that, would you say that's pretty accurate?
I would say it's definitely accurate, especially over my years where like recently, like I told you about the not growing 100% thing, and I thought to myself, and I was like, look, Vlad, like, you're the best shape you've ever been in, right? Like, I just, got in a new relationship, and like all my relatives right now are alive, and that's fantastic, right? And I was like, I'm really blessed. Like, I should have nothing to complain about besides the business. But when I ever get depressed, I always think to myself, like, these little quotes, and this little system helps get me out of these tough spots. Like whether it's James Altucher's 10 ideas, like if I can't think of like one thing by Gary Keller, right, I'll think of like 10 things to solve this problem. And I'll use these little frameworks of thinking to, maneuver myself to position. For me, really what it's all about, right, like whatever my goal is, it's positioning myself to get into a better, to get the leverage to get there, So the reason I have, like, why do I have this digital marketing agency, right? I really love marketing, but I'm really positioning myself because at the end of the day, I actually want to own like multiple businesses, right? My next business is going to be much easier to start because I'm going to have all the marketing analytics figured out.
I mean, that is, regardless of what your next step is, it's going to involve what you're doing right now.
Yeah, even Co-Founders Connect, right? Which is, I do this for free monthly. We have at least a 7-figure entrepreneur or higher. We've had up to 9-figure entrepreneurs speak, and basically, that positions me because now I have a lot of access to angel investors, venture capitalists, serial entrepreneurs that I literally at the drop of a dime I can call on my cell phone in the community. That positions me to succeed.
Yeah.
So
it's all part of the plan.
Yeah, yeah. For sure. And I think it's not an end goal at all, and it's not comparing myself to other people because that's the fastest way. The Elon Musk interview today, I only listened to about 30 minutes of it before I had to get to the office to a meeting. But because you see highlights of everybody's life and you see this, amazing lighting on this guy's face or this gal's face, and, they look perfect and they're always so happy. And you just see this one still image and you think that's how their whole life is. They don't have any struggles. Like my life, like I had a ton of different problems, that I deal with that I just don't like. My grandfather has Alzheimer's, and I see him once a week, and like there's all these different issues. But I think, kind of getting back to the point that life is a journey and it's really all about, I really like the, kind of keeping steady, not being too high, not being too low.
Yep.
Especially in startup roller coaster land. Because
it is certainly a roller coaster.
Yeah, 100%. I just told you, about the $300,000 a year last year that I lost, and this year six figures in the hoodie.
There you
go.
I
don't know what next year I'm gonna have.
So if you could go back and just kind of wrap up a little bit and just kind of tie a bow around this, and if you could go back and speak to your kind of 18-year-old pre-startup self, and to give you one piece of advice, one concise one line that would be a game changer, what would you tell yourself?
Yes. The one game changer I would say, right? So, so the CEO of, and before I give the advice, I'm going to give you guys the context, right?
Sure.
So I only talked to one billionaire in my life, and one of my goals is actually connect 2 billionaires eventually. Hopefully, I will. But he was the CEO of Costco, and he told me, focus on health, wealth, and relationships. He said just focus on those. The rest will take care. Everything else will take care of itself. So I would tell my 18-year-old self, like, look, in your life, just focus on reaching out to the people you want to be like and admire, right? Or the people who you want to be your friends. And I'm very, very kind of particular with who I surround myself with today, because the conversations, the small little things, they really make a huge difference.
They do.
So the one piece of advice I would give myself, myself is, look, just focus on the moment and connecting to the right people that will make the difference. Because if you have the right relationships, they'll take care of the health and they'll take care of the wealth for you. Literally, all I do in my company all day is I just connect people together to solve problems.
It reminds me of a kind of a quote by Jim Rohn that talks about you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I mean, it sounds like to me that that's kind of a mindset that you have.
100%, 100% agree with that mindset.
Was there anything that I haven't touched on that you just want to kind of wrap up with, and then I want you to tell us where we can find you online. So go ahead and wrap us up.
I mean, we can obviously, with somebody like you, I can talk all day. Like, this has been a fantastic podcast.
I appreciate that.
I really like that. So like we can touch on a million more things, but it's really, I think at the end of the day, it's just all about making the best of the moment, and just that's really all I try to focus on. And I think everybody else, obviously, simple but true is advice there. And yeah, if anybody wants to reach out to me, it's vlad@logicinbound.com. Obviously, they can reach out. And I'm always happy to answer any questions. I even actually do community feedback, community service. So every Wednesday, 2:30 to 3 p.m., I try to, answer any questions or help anybody else with anything in our local community, or whoever wants to jump on like a Zoom call.
Well, man, I appreciate you. I just appreciate the fact that you are, giving back in so many different areas and trying to feed the community. And
I've been given so much myself that I just have to give back. Because I'm just so blessed with all the awesome people that I know in the Seattle tech community and other places as well.
That's global. Well, Vlad, what a great way to wrap up our conversation today, and it really speaks into kind of the mantra that we have here at Rising Tide. It's that, as you are giving back to the community, you're doing your part and just playing your part to help all boats rise in a rising tide. Vlad, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you. Such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Jim.